Welcome to our channel Vegas Kitchen and Life. Please like, subscribe and hit the bell icon. This is a road trip video from Las Vegas, Nevada to Devil's Tower in Wyoming to Mount Rushmore in South Dakota. On the way back we also visited the Capitol Reef National Park in Utah. We hope you enjoy this vlog. On day 1, we drove from Las Vegas to Rock Springs, Wyoming and spent the night there. On day 2, we drove from Rock Springs, Wyoming to Thermopolis, Wyoming, and checked into our hotel there. We spent day 2 exploring the world's largest mineral hot spring in Thermopolis. This is located in the Hot Springs State Park. Over colorful terraces along the Bighorn River at Thermopolis, the water flows from the mineral hot springs, over 18,000 gallons every 24 hours, at a constant temperature of 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Visitors can take a free dip in the heat-regulated indoor or outdoor pools. The park has a free bathhouse where the water is maintained at 104 degrees for therapeutic bathing. The park has 6.2 miles of accessible trail and hiking trail. It is a full-service park with restrooms, fishing and a couple of boat docks, and a group picnic shelter that can be reserved. Inside the park, you will find boardwalk trails that twist and wind their way past enormous, impressive hot springs. These natural wonders are open to the public for free exploration as a result of a treaty signed in 1896 with local Native American tribes. One of the coolest features in the park is man-made. Don't forget to stop by the Tepi fountain, which was made by pumping hot mineral water through a pipe and allowing it to evaporate, leaving mineral deposits behind. The park has a free bathhouse where the water is maintained at 104 degrees for therapeutic bathing. Attendants are available to assist you with your needs. There is a beautiful koi pond in the park with lots of colorful koi fish that you can feed. After visiting the Hot Springs State Park, we spent the night in our hotel. On day 3, we drove from Thermopolis to Devil's Tower. On the way, we stopped at Sherpa Indian Kitchen in Gillette for lunch. The food was so good and tasty. We would highly recommend visiting this Indian restaurant if you are driving through Gillette, Wyoming. Devil's Tower was the first United States national monument established on September 24, 1906 by President Theodore Roosevelt. The name Devil's Tower originated in 1875 during an expedition led by Colonel Richard Irving Dodge, when his interpreter reportedly misinterpreted a native name to mean Bad God's Tower. According to the Native American tribes of the Kiowa and Lakota, a group of girls went out to play and were spotted by several giant bears, which began to chase the girls. In an effort to escape the bears, the girls climbed atop a rock, fell to their knees, and prayed to the Great Spirit to save them. Hearing their prayers, the Great Spirit made the rock rise from the ground towards the heavens so that the bears could not reach the girls. The bears, in an effort to climb the rock, left deep claw marks in the sides, which had become too steep to climb. Those are the marks which appear today on the sides of Devil's Tower. Legend says that when the girls reached the sky, they were turned into the stars of the constellation Pleiades. The paved 1.3-mile tower trail starts across the parking area from the visitor center. A short, steep section leads to a junction that you can take either way to walk around the base of the tower. As you walk the tower trail, you will notice cloths or small bundles attached to the trees. These are Native American prayer cloths and represent the spiritual connection many tribes have with the tower. There are numerous benches to relax along the tower trail, as well as waysides which tell about the natural and cultural history of the park. As you walk along the tower trail, you can witness this majestic monolith from different views. Humans climbed the Devil's Tower for the first time in 1937. You can still see the old climbing ladder from Devil's Tower Trail. The oldest to climb the Devil's Tower is a 91-year-old man, and the youngest climber was a 7-year-old boy. The Devil's Tower is 867 feet tall when compared to the Washington Monument, which is 555 feet tall. If you are wondering what lives on top of the Devil's Tower, wildlife actually lives on top, and there are native grasses, cacti, and sagebrush up there. Animals that make it to the top include chipmunks, mice, pack rats, and snakes. Visiting Devil's Tower, which is the first ever United States national monument, is once-in-a-lifetime experience. After visiting Devil's Tower on day 3 of our road trip, we drove to Mount Rushmore and checked into our hotel at Keystone near Mount Rushmore. In the evening we went to the evening lighting ceremony at Mount Rushmore National Memorial. Every year more than 2 million visitors journey to Mount Rushmore National Memorial. Nestled in the famous Black Hills of South Dakota, it is one of the most famous landmarks in the world. Despite the popularity, most visitors stop during the day for a few photos and hop back in the car. Yet one of Mount Rushmore's best sights happens as the sun begins to set behind George Washington and his fellow presidents. The night program at Mount Rushmore is one of our top national park recommendations. When the program begins, one of Mount Rushmore's rangers comes on stage for the evening lighting ceremony. The ranger gives a brief history of the monument and then introduces a short film. It covers the history of the United States and why the sculptor chose each of the 4 presidents. The film plays as the shadows fill in around the amphitheater and the sun sinks lower.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join in singing America's national anthem.
After the film ends, the program continues with a moving tribute to the men and women who served our country in the armed forces. While that continues on stage, the 18,800 watts of metal halide and high-pressure sodium lights begin to slowly rise on the president's faces. When the ranger concludes the program, the crowd's attention is directed up to the four faces, now golden yellow in the South Dakota night sky. Seeing the monument up close at night is breathtaking and worth braving chilly evenings in May and September. If you are visiting Mount Rushmore, we highly recommend the evening lighting ceremony. After a restful night, we visited Mount Rushmore the next day morning. The best time of day to visit Mount Rushmore is in the morning to beat the daily crowds. Try to get there early. The facility opens at 8 a.m. U.S. Mountain Time. Mount Rushmore National Memorial is a national memorial centered on a colossal sculpture carved into the granite face of Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills near Keystone, South Dakota. Sculptor Gutzon Borglum created the sculpture's design and oversaw the project's execution from 1927 to 1941 with the help of his son, Lincoln Borglum. Between October 4, 1927 and October 31, 1941, Gutzon Borglum and 400 workers sculpted the colossal 60-foot-high carvings of United States Presidents George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln to represent the first 150 years of American history. These presidents were selected by Borglum because of their role in preserving the republic and expanding its territory. We walked through the presidential trail to get a close look at the president's sculptures. While on the presidential trail, we also visited the sculptor's studio. In 1939, this structure was built as a second on-site studio for sculptor Gutzon Borglum. Unique plaster models and worker tools related to the sculpting processes are displayed in this studio. Special programs including a short studio talk on the mountain carving process and exhibits explaining Gutzon Borglum's vision make this a must-see while visiting the park. Completing the presidential trail, we visited the gift shop. As we drove out of Mount Rushmore Memorial, we stopped by the Profile View viewing area just off the side of South Dakota Highway 244. At the Profile Viewpoint, you can get a one-of-a-kind view of George Washington framed by the surrounding rock outcroppings. After spending the morning visiting Mount Rushmore, we drove to Crazy Horse Memorial, which is 35 minutes drive from Mount Rushmore. The Crazy Horse Memorial is a mountain monument under construction on privately held land in the Black Hills, in Custer County, South Dakota, United States. It will depict the Oglala Lakota warrior Crazy Horse, riding a horse and pointing to his tribal land. The memorial was commissioned by Henry Standing Bear, a Lakota elder, to be sculpted by Korchak Ziolkowski. It is operated by the Crazy Horse Memorial Foundation, a nonprofit organization. The monument has been in progress since 1948 and is far from completion. If completed as designed, it will become the world's second tallest statue. Crazy Horse was a Native American war leader of the Oglala Lakota. He took up arms against the U.S. federal government to fight against encroachments on the territories and way of life of the Lakota people. His most famous actions against the U.S. military included the Fetterman Fight in 1866 and the Battle of the Little Bighorn in 1876. He surrendered to U.S. troops under General George Crook in May 1877 and was fatally wounded by a military guard, allegedly while resisting imprisonment at Camp Robinson in present-day Nebraska. He ranks among the most notable and iconic of Native American tribal members and was honored by the U.S. Postal Service in 1982 with a 13-cent postage stamp that is part of its Great American series. The memorial master plan includes the Mountain Carving Monument, an Indian Museum of North America, and a Native American Cultural Center. The monument is being carved out of Thunderhead Mountain, on land considered sacred by some Oglala Lakota, between Custer and Hill City, roughly 17 miles from Mount Rushmore. At the time construction started in 1948, the artist estimated the work would be complete in 30 years. As of 2022, there was no timeline for when the monument would be completed. However, the hand, arm, shoulder, hairline, and top of the horse's head were anticipated to be finished by 2037. You can dine in casual elegance at the Laughing Water restaurant in the visitor center, where you will be treated to a spectacular view of the mountain carving while enjoying some of the area's best cuisine. The Indian Museum of North America at the memorial is home to a large collection of art and artifacts, reflecting the diverse histories and cultures of the American Indian people. The museum collection started with a single exhibit donated in 1965. Close to 90% of the art and artifacts have been donated by generous individuals, including many Native Americans. The museum serves as a resource for students, educators, and visitors, allowing the opportunity to study and learn from the exhibits and many other cultural resources at Crazy Horse Memorial. There is also the rustic bus rides to the bottom of the mountain for a close-up view of the sculpture. The bus ride is a 25-minute round trip to the bottom of the mountain and back to the visitor center, and $4 per person and kids under 6 are free. Once you are at the base of the mountain, you can see the ongoing construction work. Being an entirely privately funded endeavor with no public funding, it is impossible to state when exactly the Crazy Horse Monument will be finished. The face etched into the side of the mountain was visibly completed back in 1998, but there is still a great deal of work to be done to the rest of the mountain face, guest areas, as well as a variety of other aspects of the monument. The bus driver shared some interesting history behind the construction of the sculpture and ongoing work. We highly recommend taking the bus ride to the base of the mountain if you are visiting Crazy Horse Memorial. The laser light show, aptly titled Legends in Light, is presented nightly, at dark, from Memorial Day weekend through September 30th. The laser light show effectively turns the mountainside into a giant 500-foot screen for this spectacular display. After visiting the Crazy Horse Memorial, we checked into our hotel in Custer and headed out for an amazing lunch. After the lunch, we visited the Custer State Park. The park is South Dakota's largest and first state park, named after Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer. The park covers an area of over 71,000 acres of varied terrain, including rolling prairie grasslands and rugged mountains. The park is home to a herd of bison, elk, coyotes, mule deer, white-tailed deer, mountain goats, prairie dogs, bighorn sheep, river otters, pronghorn, cougars, and virile burros also inhabit the park. The park is known for its scenery, its scenic drives, particularly the Needles Highway and the Wildlife Loop, with views of the bison herd and prairie dog towns, are a must-visit. Welcome to part 5 of our travel vlog from Las Vegas to Mount Rushmore. In this video, we visited the Jewel Cave National Monument and the Mammoth Site in South Dakota. Jewel Cave National Monument contains Jewel Cave, currently the third longest cave in the world. It is located approximately 13 miles west of the town of Custer in Black Hills of South Dakota. Jewel Cave is a breathing cave, which means air enters or exits the cave with changes in atmospheric pressure from day to night, or due to changes in the weather. Ranger-guided tours are required to enter Jewel Cave, and the various tours are offered at scheduled times, which vary by season. Throughout the year, cave tours often book in advance. For this reason, visitors are encouraged to make advance tour reservations through recreation.gov.
34 stairs, okay, my friends? So go ahead and get those knees loosened up, because as we move through the cave, you're going to want that flexibility as we go.
All right, you guys can come on in. Just leave me a spot by the button panel. Let's see. How are you guys with small spaces? This is the smallest space you'll be in on the whole tour. Okay. It is not too bad. And this elevator is going down about 240 feet below our visitor center right now. Wow. And it makes the trip in around 40 seconds. It makes us the fastest elevator in South.
So it's pretty fantastic to get to see that. But today we won't get to, and that's okay.
This part's steep. I brought my off-road shoes. My 4x4 shoes. I got mine on.
Well, hello, my friend. Welcome. I like your shoes. I'd love to get. Well, my friends, you can see some of those classic stalactites hanging onto the ceiling. Now, over here, you'll notice one stalactite that is much longer than the rest, and that's this guy right here. This stalactite would have had lots of watery calcium carbonate dripping off this feature, so much so that it started depositing on the ground below. Now, this feature down here on the ground, this is called a stalagmite, because it might trip you along your journey. Now, these stalactites, when they form initially as hollow soda straws. The water and the calcium carbonate flow down through those soda straws. The water drips down to the surface and the calcium carbonate forms at the very end. Now, how many of you guys were hit by water as we came into the cave? Like I said, the cave will reach out and touch in. It's just showing a little bit of loving as we go. We call those caves. And at our last stop, I asked you guys to start looking, hearing, or feeling some of the changes inside our cave. Did anyone feel or hear anything along the way?
Rain.
Yeah, we've got water coming into this part of the cave. That is our big change, right? Alrighty, guys, on your left-hand side here, we have our classic cave bacon formation. A 20-foot long piece of cave bacon extending from the ceiling down to the lowest point here. The orange, red, and yellow colors are all from iron oxide, giving it that classic.
After visiting the Jewel Cave, we drove to the Mammoth site in Hot Springs, South Dakota. The Mammoth site is a museum and paleontological site near Hot Springs, South Dakota, in the Black Hills. It is an active paleontological excavation site at which research and excavations are continuing. The facility encloses a prehistoric sinkhole that formed and was slowly filled with sediments during the Pleistocene era. The sedimentary fill of the sinkhole contains the remains of Pleistocene fauna and flora, preserved by entrapment and burial within a sinkhole. As of 2016, the remains of 61 mammoths, including 58 North American Columbian and 3 woolly mammoths, had been recovered. Mammoth bones were found at the site in 1974, and a museum and building enclosing the site were established. The museum now contains an extensive collection of mammoth remains. After visiting Jewel Cave and Mammoth Site, we drove to Rawlins in Wyoming and stayed overnight in our hotel. The next day, we drove from Rawlins to Rim Rock Inn, which is located closer to the Capitol Reef National Park in Utah. The Rim Rock Inn and restaurants are located on the edge of Capitol Reef National Park, in the beautiful town of Torrey, Utah. The Rim Rock Inn offers a serene, rustic setting of beautiful landscape and an authentic atmosphere so near to Capitol Reef National Park. This was the beautiful view from our hotel room. Located in south-central Utah in the heart of Red Rock Country, Capitol Reef National Park is a hidden treasure filled with cliffs, canyons and domes, and bridges in the Water Pocket Fold, a geologic monocline extending almost 100 miles. The park was named for its whitish Navajo sandstone cliffs with dome formations, similar to the white domes often placed on Capitol buildings. After seeing the Chimney Rock, Sunset Point, petroglyphs and the schoolhouse, we returned to our hotel room after sunset.